Welcome to OAC in Vancouver. Now let me show you what OAC's experience looks like. Here we value diversity. We are a blend of cultures and ethnicities, and people come to worship together from all corners of the globe. We're all united every Sabbath in worshiping our Creator. By 11 a.m., the sanctuary comes alive, and the sounds of our worship band fill the air, inviting everyone to sing and praise. And our spiritual journey doesn't stop there. We dive deep into teachings, share personal testimonies, and grow in faith and understanding together. And if you like coffee like I do, then our cafe is the place to be. Every Saturday morning, they are serving up goodness in a cup, paired with delicious treats. It really is the perfect place to mingle, chat, and enjoy each other's company. After the service, we invite you to join us for food and fun and fellowship. Because here at OAC, breaking bread together is more than just a tradition. It is a celebration of our shared journey. So regardless of what you're looking for, if it's spiritual growth, making new connections, or just enjoying a good cup of coffee with some great music, we invite you to come experience our community and discover the transformative love of Jesus. See you soon.
still is and will be through it all. So come with me in the space between all the things unseen and this reckoning. I know I will never be alone. I know I will never be alone. Be another in the fire, standing next to me. You'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy come every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. And I can see the light in the darkness as the darkness bows to him. I can hear the roar in the heavens as the space between us sink. I can feel the ground shake beneath us as the prison walls cave in, and nothing stands between us. There'll be another in the fire, standing next to me. There'll be another in the waters, holding back the seas. And should I ever need reminding how good you've been to me, I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be. I'll count the joy from every battle, 'cause I know that's where you'll be.
Oh yeah, you've been so close, despite my distance. Oh yeah, and you're always good, you're always present. When my faith is fading, your love will still embrace me. I know that I can make it, I can make it. When my faith is fading, your love will still embrace me. I know that I can make it, I can make it. With me when I walk through fire, even when I face the giants, in the darkness with the lions, tell the devil that he's a liar. Even when I'm in the waiting, in all of my broken places, give me faith where I am faithless, and I will not be afraid. I'll be okay, I'll be okay, I'll be okay, I'll be okay. Even when I wander, your eyes are on me, on me. Oh yeah, you're never far. I wanna feel your heartbeat, heartbeat. When my faith is fading, your love will still embrace me. I know that I can make it, I can make it. When my faith is failing, your love will still embrace me. I know that I can make it, I can make it. You with me when I walk through fire, even when I face the giants, in the darkness with the lions, tell the devil that he's a liar. Even when I'm in the waiting, all of my broken places, give me faith where I am faithless. I will not be afraid, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. 'Cause you're with me when I walk through fire, even when I face the giants, in the darkness with the lions. Tell the devil that he's a liar. Even when I'm in the waiting, in all of my broken places, give me faith where I am faithless, and I will not be afraid. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay. I'll be okay.
Good morning. It is good to see you all. I see many familiar faces and some unfamiliar faces. Gulp. It is just an honor for me to join you this morning. My name is Rob. I'm a pastor in Squamish, British Columbia. And I've been there for 3 years, church planting, and the work that we do up there, starting a new spiritual community in Squamish and the Sea to Sky corridor, is supported in a great way by this church family. So I just wanted to say thank you. God is good. We moved to Squamish in January of 2020. Our second daughter was born in February of 2020, and then we didn't leave our house in March of 2020. And it's just been a very unusual last 3 years, trying to bring people together into a new community in the midst of a pandemic. There's actually no textbook about that. And so it's been an interesting journey, but through it all, the OAC family here, you guys have supported us from afar with lots of logistical personnel support, and we're just really grateful. And it's an honor for me to share with you today. In Squamish, we are in the midst of a quarter-long exploration that we're titling Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. Basically exploring the idea that our emotions, the things we feel and the way we navigate those feelings, on the one hand, and our spiritual lives are not two parts of us that ought to be completely separate from one another. They are intertwined, and one affects the other greatly. So much so that I believe that it's impossible to be spiritually mature while remaining emotionally immature. So we're going to go there a little bit this morning, and I'm eager to see what you think. So what I'd like to do is I would like to begin by telling you that I'm very wise, because I chose to travel to Mexico last week in the midst of a snowstorm. It was great. I planned months in advance for this. When I saw the forecast in April of 2022, looking ahead to March of 2023, I thought we should probably leave that week. So we had a great time, and I heard reports of stunning weather here, and I apologize to you all to have to share what a great, warm week I had. But while I was there, by the way, on the beach, while I was there on the beach, even the kitchen was outdoors. Okay, it was perfect. Anyways, while I was there, I decided to try surfing. I've tried a couple of times, and I first rented a board, and then the next day I took lessons, and I progressed very quickly. And I'd like to show you a picture now on the screen of myself. Look at that. That's my smile. Those are my locks, right? No, that's not me. Oh my word, I was so not that. What happened is I rented a board one day. I thought, you know what, I can balance. I can ride a wave. So I got this board, and the guy must have thought I was like, oh, sort of young, so he gave me like a skinnier board, a long but skinnier, and I got so pummeled by the waves that the leash attached to my foot broke, and I had to return it, and he was upset. The guy, he's like, you broke the leash? And he had to give me a training board instead that was like pretty much completely padded, and like very, very buoyant and wide, and I didn't really do much better with that. So I decided to be humble and take a lesson the next day, and the guy was really hard on me. Maybe it's because I had broken his leash the day before, but he was like, paddle, paddle, and I would paddle, and then I would paddle back to him after crashing, and he would say something like, I told you to paddle. You waited 2 seconds. That's a wasted 2 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Let's try again. And I wish I could tell you it would be so much more helpful for the illustration that I'm getting to, that because of my intentionality, my careful focus on the skills of learning to get up, my focus that by the end I was a competent surfer. But I was actually still so terrible that I never even rented a board for the rest of the time. I was like, forget this. Surfing, it's sort of this idyllic sport because you think about just riding the waves, just like being there and ready to be taken by whatever comes your way and doing it with grace and skill and chill, right? Surfers. Every surfer I know is so chill. And by the way, when I was out there paddling, trying to catch up to my instructor, he had this moment of zen where he's talking to me and saying, surfing, it's your mind and your body, they're at odds with each other. And what you need to do is just put the mind aside and your body knows what to do. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My body does not know what to do here. But in theory, this idea of, being out in the water and the waves hitting you and you just kind of knowing what to do, just standing up and letting them take you, not being overwhelmed by them, not being destroyed by them, but making it through with beauty and grace. It's kind of how I would like to live my life. There's so much in our lives and in our weeks even that are out of our control. They come our way, and then we have to decide how we will respond. We have to try and ride that wave. Sometimes we look back at our weeks and we say, man, I rode that wave. And maybe think back to this week yourself. What were the waves, proverbial waves that hit you? What were the struggles? What were the conflicts? What were the good waves, the moments of excitement and joy, the possibilities? And reflect, how did I ride those waves? Whatever that wave was that you felt this week, whether it carried you along, whether you rode it gracefully, or whether it pummeled you, I'm sure in the midst of it you felt lots of emotions. You either felt joy or excitement or anger or resentment or fear or a mix of a bunch of these things. In fact, you could look at emotions themselves as waves. Feelings that come your way, and you've got to try and handle them well. You've got to express them well. You've got to work through those feelings well. You either ride the wave, or you try and duck under the wave, or suppress the wave, or you just get overwhelmed by those waves of emotions. And today I want to explore with you emotions and how we can learn to ride the waves of emotions that come our way. And there's a reason I care about this. I'll be very frank. If you look at any tough part of your life, whether they be dysfunctions or conflicts or burdens or traumas, if you look at all the blow-ups with your spouse, the insecurities at your work, the gossip you struggle to keep in, the fear that seems to bind you, whatever it is, you fill in the blank, something's coming to your mind, there will be an emotional component there. There will be feelings. Sometimes a feeling is what triggers action. Sometimes actions trigger feelings. Sometimes the emotions of life roll over you and you handle them with grace, and sometimes they destroy you. They lead you to act in a way that you regret, in ways that hurt yourself or hurt those around you. So if emotions are always present, if they are a fact of life, and if they are alive, especially in the crucible moments, in the tough parts of our lives, I can't help but think that God cares about your emotions, and that God has something to say to your emotions, how you express them, how you handle them. Could it be that your emotional self is the front line on which the kingdom of God wants to work? That's what I want to explore with you today. So, I'm going to be very clear. This morning we're going to walk through 4 points together, and I have them up on the screen. We're going to explore, first of all, the idea that we are emotional. The second, the possibility that God is emotional. Third, this idea of emotional integrity. And finally, 4 first steps toward that emotional integrity. So we'll dive right in with number 1. We are emotional. You are emotional. The first step is really recognizing our emotional identities. You are emotional. That phrase, stop being so emotional, is impossible. That phrase in itself is emotional. I used to say that I wasn't emotional, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, but I would say this because I didn't cry very easily. Everyone else would be crying at the rom-com movie, or even at the funeral, and I was just... And so I thought, I guess I'm just not very emotional. But our starting point today is to recognize that even I am an emotional being. I want to share with you a profound definition of emotion that digs deep, and it's by this well-known local author, Gabor Mate. He writes this, and as I read this, I want you to look at the quote and think about it. And when I'm done reading it, we're going to leave it on the screen, and I just want you to contemplate it for a moment. I'm going to be quiet, and you're going to think about what this means in your life. Emotions are responses to present stimuli as filtered through the memory of past experience, and they anticipate the future based on our perception of the past. Take 30 seconds to just look at that quote and think about it. And that's it. And now, if you're comfortable, take a moment to share it with someone beside you what stuck out to you as you considered that definition of emotion. So, maybe we can leave it up on the screen for another few seconds. There's lots to think about in this, so I'm going to bring us back together. And if you're interested in exploring this further, this quote is from Mate's book called When the Body Says No. When the Body Says No. All right. So, for me, I'm struck by the realization that my past is very present in my present and future, right? What I have experienced before is alive today. It shaped me. It was a major factor in creating the responses, the feelings and emotions that I have now. Now, obviously, part of who I am, I had when I was born, from my parents, some of my personality traits, some of the quirks of who I am, I was probably born with. And we're getting into a nature versus nurture debate here. But what Mate is saying is that so much of who I am is based on past experiences in my life. And so much of who you are is based on past experiences in your life. The family you grew up in, the situations you experienced, the highs and lows that you have been through. Here are some examples that really are maybe a bit extreme, but they show the point very clearly, and you might resonate with some of them. A veteran comes home from Afghanistan, and he wrestles with the ethical and moral implications of his or her assignment there. There are moments that are seared into his head, and he thinks about them constantly. There are other moments that come back in a flash, involuntarily, perhaps when he hears a loud noise and immediately cowers in a corner, or worse, lashes out physically at whatever or whoever is closest to him. Now, PTSD is its own thing, of course. There's more to it. But you could say that, in a sense, it's a heightened emotional and then physical response to a present experience based on a past experience, yes? How about this one? As a child, you were metaphorically hit over the head with the Bible. You lived in fear of hellfire. You felt guilty when you sinned or you hid things from your parents. You had a very restrictive view of religion and spirituality. And now, you're a free person. You're not beholden to anyone else's beliefs or mandates, and you have moved on intellectually from some of the restrictive beliefs about God and religion of your past. But sometimes you still get filled with fear as you read a passage and you wonder if you're being judged by it. And sometimes when you hear someone else speak about their faith, it really rubs you wrong, and you're not sure why, but you feel angry or fearful. On a lighter note, I got the mail at the post office this last week, and as I left, I looked back at my P.O. box. It was closed. The previous time, I hadn't looked back, and I had never looked back before this moment because I went home and realized that I did not have my keys. I couldn't find them anywhere. There's nothing worse in life than losing your keys. Talk about emotional waves. I was in a gigantic one. Wherever the biggest ones are in the world, I was in it, losing my keys. I searched high and low. I tore the place apart. I retraced my steps and found them in the P.O. box lock. And the door was open and my keys were hanging there. And it wasn't just my box key. It was my car key. It was my garage key. It was my house key. Everything hanging there. And it had probably been there at least an hour. I had waves of shock and panic and gratitude. And from that point on, every single time I leave my P.O. box, I look back and make sure I didn't leave my keys there. Without fail. The past impacting the present, yes? When we understand our emotions in this light, as responses based on past experiences, we of course recognize that we're all emotional. It helps us understand some of the things that might be behind your feelings, maybe sadness, anger, frustration, fear, joy, peace, contentment, surprise, embarrassment. And it also leads to this important conclusion. Emotions are not inherently good or bad. They just are. Emotions are responses. They're part of who you are. I don't know how you think about emotions yourself, but if you're a follower of Jesus, especially in a more, let's say, conservative tradition, the idea that emotions are neutral may be a bit tough for you. Because we think of some of them as positive. For example, joy. It's a positive emotion. And others as negative. like anger, for example, or at least something to be suspicious of. Have you ever heard the phrase, "you can't trust your emotions"? I have. Or, "make sure you follow the word of God, not your feelings." Now, these phrases have some truth in them, in some contexts, to some extents, but frankly, since I'm speaking in a church, I'm going to say that many of us as followers of Jesus have often suppressed our feelings and emotions because in some way we've been led to believe that they're bad, that we shouldn't even be too happy because then we're letting our guard down. You ever thought that? We've taken healthy caution to the extreme. So let me ask you this. How were we ever supposed to love the Lord your God with all our hearts and soul and minds without embracing our emotions? How are we supposed to be angry but do not sin? How are we supposed to show compassion and express the fruits of the Spirit, which include joy and peace, while remaining suspicious by default of what we're feeling? I don't know. Recognize this core fact. You and I are emotional. And the emotions you face and you feel are not evil. They're not from the devil. They are not to be treated with total suspicion. They are to be felt and expressed in healthy ways. They are part of who you are. And feeling isn't a sin. But Rob, how do you know emotions aren't evil? I'm not sure I buy this. Well, we're going to move to our second point, and that is, I know that emotions are not evil because God is emotional. Okay? I'm going to take you on a tour of 7 passages in rapid succession where Jesus Christ, God on earth, perfect, he showed a whole range of emotions. And I'm not going to get into each story at all. I'm simply going to read them, and you're going to see Jesus expressing all sorts of emotions. They'll be up here on the screen, and I'll read them one after the other. Starting in Luke 19, it says, "And when he drew near this and saw the city, he, Jesus, wept over it, saying, 'Would that you, even you, had known on this day the things that make for peace, but now they are hidden from your eyes.'" Luke 10:21. "In that same hour, he rejoiced in the Holy Spirit and said, 'I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to little children. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will.'" Mark 3:5. "And he looked around at them with anger, grieved at their hardness of heart, and said to the man, 'Stretch out your hand.' And he stretched it out, and his hand was restored." Moving to the next slide, Matthew chapter 9:36. "When he saw the crowds, he had compassion for them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd." Matthew 26:37 and 38. "And taking with him Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, 'My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch with me.'" Luke 7:9. "When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at them, and turning to the crowd that followed him, said, 'I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith.'" And Luke 12:49 and 50. "I came to cast fire on the earth, and would that it were already kindled. I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how great is my distress until it is accomplished." In these verses alone, and the emotionality of God goes from Genesis to Revelation. In these verses alone, we see a God of sadness, joy, anger, grief, compassion, sorrow, burden, astonishment, distress, urgency. This is God expressing a whole range of emotions. Clearly, it's not a bad thing. Emotions never got Jesus in trouble. His tears highlighted his divinity. They did not obscure it. His anger showed his righteousness. It did not cause him to lose it. And we could go down the list. Now, this idea of an emotional God is tough for people, including many theologians, because of at least two presuppositions. So one is a Greek philosophical understanding of God as totally disconnected from everything else and emotionless. He is this unmoved mover, thus unmoved by our pains, our highs, or our lows. He just is. And then the other presupposition is what we've been talking about, this idea that emotions are possibly bad or dangerous. And God can't be flawed, so he can't have emotions. But when you simply read the Bible, God's self-revelation, God is emotional. If Jesus is the ultimate embodied, clearest expression of the character and personality of divinity, and he cried, he was angry, he laughed, he was astonished, then God is emotional. Period. But isn't emotions reactionary? How could God be reactionary? Well, yes. And what's wrong with reacting? Would it be wrong for Jesus to react with sorrow, for God to react in sorrow in the book of Hosea when his bride continually abandons him for another? Why would it be wrong for God to react with anger when the children he loves are abused? Why would it be wrong for God to rejoice when the lost are found? We are emotional. God is emotional. And it actually turns out that that's one of the ways we're made in the image of God. So, what's the rub? I can't help but think that there was something different about Jesus and his emotions, right? Well, yes. And maybe you're thinking, well, I get it. I'm cool with emotions, but I'm still not totally happy with how I express mine. Well, that's fair. That's where we're going next. We're going to look at the idea of emotional integrity. Now, we often think of integrity as doing the right thing, right? You have integrity if you don't cheat on a test, right? And we'll put up a definition here on the screen. And there are two definitions. The first one is that more common usage, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. That is good. But check out the second definition, and this actually has this is a more literal definition of the word. The state of being whole and undivided. A complete whole, you could almost see it as a puzzle with all the pieces fitting together properly. Integrity, when it comes to emotions, means an alignment of our actions and reactions with our identity and our deepest held values. So we spoke about the tendency of Christians toward emotional repression or suspicion, but there is the opposite extreme of being completely unhinged, so reactionary that we harm ourselves and harm others. Clearly, that's not okay either, right? So what's the answer? I submit to you this idea of emotional integrity, an alignment between our emotional responses and the values that we hold dear. So check out this quote. This is, again, Pete Scazzaro. He wrote a great book that I recommend called Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. And he writes this about Jesus. Jesus was anything but an emotionally frozen Messiah. I observed how Jesus was able to separate himself from the expectations of the crowds, his family and his disciples. His relationship with his Father, his core identity, freed him from the pressures of those around him. He was not afraid to live out his own unique life and mission, regardless of other people's agenda for his life. So what he's saying here is that Jesus was true to his core identity, regardless of outside or internal pressures. This, I would submit to you, is emotional health. It's emotional maturity. This is wisdom. This is integrity. He integrated all of his emotions and reactions and expressions in a way that he could do it, he could feel it, he could show it without compromising or betraying who he was at his core. The pinnacle example of this, friends, is Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He is feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He is facing his imminent crucifixion, and he is distraught. He is physically weighted so much that he is sweating drops of blood. And as he is in this moment of peril and being overwhelmed, he's honest, he's crying, he's moaning. It probably sounds like he is being physically hurt, and he is deep down, and he's saying to God, God, if there is any way out of this, please let this cup pass from me. You can see the raw emotion. He's not holding anything back. But even amidst that, he says, but not my will, but yours be done. You see that? There is his integrity coming through. He feels and expresses everything without denying his core identity and purpose in life. I want that. I want to know myself. I want to be comfortable with my emotions, and I want to express them, and I want to do that in a way that I won't regret. I want to do that in a way that doesn't hurt those I love. Because when I think about my deepest values, and you might share these, my deepest values are, one, following in the footsteps of Jesus, apprenticing myself to Jesus, learning to be like him, which is love. Unselfish love, pouring into others, even over myself. The feelings that I feel aren't bad. They're part of who I am. But it is possible to express them in ways that hurt those around me or hurt myself. And suddenly, I'm not aligned. Thus, the need for emotional transformation. And you know, I share this message. I've been thinking about this a lot for the last few months because it's very alive for me personally. It's interesting. Usually your closest relationships are the best mirror of who you are, right? Because they get to see you in the highs and lows, and they get to react, and you get to see your effect on them. Growing up, like I said, I didn't think I was very emotional. I didn't cry. I didn't learn to name my feelings. So I just assumed I'm just not a very emotional person. But then doing life with my wife, Bethany, has given me a mirror and a feedback into my emotional realities. And it's helped me to see how my emotions affect others. Turns out, first of all, that she is much more emotionally mature than me. And I would have always then said she is more emotional than me. But through her feedback and seeing the effect that I have on her, I'm recognizing that I am possibly even more emotional than she is. By this, I mean, I'm moody. I'm affected by my circumstances hardcore, by the news, by feelings, by my physical health, my aches and pains, by my guilt, by shame, by stress, so much. My emotions actually come out strong, and I always thought I wasn't the emotional one. I'm passionate. I get angry in bad ways and good ways, but I have times of stoke, and then I have other moments that are technically called blah. Highs and lows. And until recently, I never realized that. I never realized how much I was affected by my feelings and how much my roller coaster of feelings was affecting others. One example of this is that in the midst of something going wrong, let's say something like let's say I rented a car, and this has happened. Okay, no, we'll take this. Honeymoon. We're going to a beach on Friday night to watch the sunset, and something goes wrong, and we're going to be late and miss the sunset. It was the first time that she saw this part of me. I immediately was super hard on myself. Something went wrong, and I took it out on myself. And then as our relationship has progressed and things sometimes don't go well, oftentimes what I do is I'm feeling guilt. I'm feeling embarrassment. And so what I do is try and deflect that. And I look for anything else I can blame. And who is it that I'm going to blame? The one closest to me. She ends up feeling the guilt that I am not emotionally mature enough to feel and hold and process myself. And I've seen it hurt her and build up through the years. And recently, as I've realized this, I've recognized that something needs to change about the way that I express and process my emotions. So your areas of growth might be similar, they might be different. But whatever they are, I believe that your emotions, your responses to the waves coming in to the beach where you're trying to surf, that is the frontier into which the kingdom of God wants to expand. God wants to bring integrity to your emotions. Jesus wants to go there. Jesus wants to help me respond better to my guilt. Jesus wants to heal me of my perfectionism. Jesus wants me to represent love well, regardless of what side of the bed I get up on. It's where it's at in spiritual growth. If there were ways that my emotional immaturity is harming those closest to me, I'm hurting people because of the way I'm expressing and processing my emotions, that's gotta be where the change needs to happen. That's gotta be the area where a God of love wants to work and make a difference. So I'm learning to ride the waves. I wish I could tell you that I had it perfectly, that I figured it out, but I haven't. But I do want to suggest to you 4 steps, 4 simple, practical steps to bringing some intentionality into your emotional and spiritual lives. And I'll put them up here on the screen and we'll go through them together. This is very practical, okay? The next time you feel an intense emotion, high or low, whatever it might be, as soon as possible after that event, find 15 minutes on your own and go through these steps. You might want to take a picture of them or just remember them. They're not very complicated. Come into a quiet space and first ask God for insight. Pray. Say, God, please give me some wisdom in this of why this happened. Teach me right now. Trust, like I said, that He wants to transform this part of your life. So ask God to give you the eyes to see. Second point is name what you felt. This is called emotional intelligence. By the way, kids these days are learning this a lot better than we adults have learned it, I think. My kids are very good at this. In fact, as I was leaving home, I was telling my daughter, who's 6 now, that I was going to be speaking on this, and she's like, oh, you should take this poster. And she pulled out a poster that she had done with her and her friends of like 6 smiley faces, or faces, with different faces, one with anger, one with sadness, one with happiness, and with the name of each one under this emoji face. I was like, wow, you should preach, Eliza. They're learning it better than we are. But the idea here is you name what you felt. Don't just move on, but being like, wow, what did I feel in that moment? I felt pride. Oh, I felt fear. And then that fear turned into anger or defensiveness or whatever it is. Name it. Recognize the thing that you just felt, not as a good or a bad, but just as a reality. Third is kind of where it's at. ask the why or what's going on question. This is moving us from awareness to understanding. Remember, we talked earlier about how emotions are the present responses to past events. Consider, why did I just act that way? Or why did I feel fear? Was there something that happened before? Or what is it about myself that wants to do this every time this happens? Whatever it might be, ask yourself the why or what's going on question. There might be a very easy, simple answer. But perhaps it'll be a deep answer, one that breaks you. And the last point is simply the what now question. And really, you kind of have to bring it back to God here for insight. It kind of circles back around to step one. What does God want me to do with this awareness and this understanding of who I am? Is it sharing with someone? Is it confessing? Is it therapy? Is it celebrating? Is it trying to respond with more integrity next time with God's help? How can I take this new understanding of my emotions and ride the wave better next time? By the way, there will definitely be a next time. I spoke with one surfer in Baja where I was, and he said that every time he comes down to Baja for the winter, pause, lucky him, every time he comes down, it takes him a month, again, pause, lucky him, it takes him a month to get his balance back. No wonder I didn't get it after 2 hours. Oh, man. But it turns out that riding the wave takes practice, and there is continual growth. There's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I'm so inspired by those who are riding really well emotionally. And like I said, I'm not there yet, but I'm learning. I'm becoming more emotionally expressive and aware. I can tell you, I cry more often now. So that's a start. But I'm on a path to emotional maturity, and I simply invite you to join me. Let's learn to ride the waves of emotions and feelings that are part of the human experience, to ride them with grace and skill and authenticity and love toward ourselves and others. And the waves will keep coming, so we've got a lifetime to learn.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours. taking